We're going to look at another type of statistical graph, and this is a histogram. Histogram is similar to a dot plot, except we draw histograms when the numbers are really spread out. So in this example right here, notice that our least value is 1, and our greatest value is 45. That would be a pain to draw a dot plot of all 45 numbers. So what we do is we draw a histogram. Histograms have to do with intervals. So we're looking at an interval of numbers, not just a dot of numbers. Now, in order to create our intervals, what we need is a minimum of 5 intervals. So we just don't want to have one interval from 1 to 45. What we want are intervals of 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to count the frequencies in each interval. And then what we're going to do is we're going to draw bins. It's kind of like a bar. We call them bins. And in between the bins, make sure that there's no gaps. So when we're making our interval table, I'm going to put interval. And then I'm going to put frequency. And so I want a minimum of 5. So I'm going to start from 0 to 9. That would be my first interval. Then I'd go 10 to 19. I go 20 to 29, 30 to 39, and 40 to 49. Notice that I have 5 intervals, and that's capturing my lowest value, which is 1, and the last interval is capturing my last one, which is 45. So from 0 to 9, I'm going to count how many are in my interval. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for my frequency, I'm going to put 4. Now I'm going to look for my tens. So looking for my tens, I have 14 and I have 19. That would be 2. So my frequency would be 2. Now I'm going to look in the 20s. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 4 is going to be my frequency. Now I'm going to look in the 30s. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to look in the 40s. 1, 2, 3. So that right there would be my interval, or my frequency table. Now I'm going to draw my histogram. I start with 0, and I'm going to go by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. That's a little confusing because here I have my last number as 49, but I'm putting 50 right here because whenever you're writing your interval, you're always doing your first number, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. So we're going to put 50 so that the intervals look exactly the same. Then my highest frequency is 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to go up to 4. And now I'm going to draw bins or bars. So my first one is 4. My next one is 2. My next one is 4. And my last 2 are 3. And that right there is my histogram. Now, we made the histogram, and what we're going to do is describe the distribution. If you remember with distribution, we talk about socks. We're going to talk about the shape. We're going to talk about outliers. We're going to talk about the center. And we're going to talk about the spread. Now, for the shape, this right here is kind of an awkward one. We actually have 2 peaks. Notice that with this peak, there's 2 on the right and 2 on the left. So this is kind of a difficult one to say, but the best explanation is approximately symmetric. Outliers, there's no gaps in between the bins, so it would be none. An example of a histogram that would have an outlier is if we had all these bins and then there's a gap and then we have a bin far off. That would be an example of an outlier. So in this case, there's no outliers because they're all grouped together. The center, there's actually two peaks. We don't call it a mode. Mode is for an individual number. With histograms, we say peaks, and that would be the highest bin. So we have peak from 0 to 9, and we have a peak from 20 to 20. And then our spread, what we're going to do is use our range. That's our easiest. And our maximum number, we're not going off of 50, so it's not like the peaks where we're doing an interval. We actually pick the largest number, which we said earlier was 45. Our smallest was 1. So when we're looking at this, we have 45 minus 1, which is 44. Let's look at letter B. With letter B, we want to find our least value. So our least value is 52. Then what we're going to do is we're going to find our greatest value, which is 83. Now, I'm not going to go by tens this time because 50, 60, 70, 80 is only 4 bins. I want 5. So I'm going to go by 5s. So I'm going to go interval and frequency. And since I'm going by 5s, I'm going to use my 50s first. So 50 to 54, 55 to 59, 60 to 64, 65 to 69, 70 to 74, 75 to 79, 80 to 84. And since my last one is 83, that would be my last interval. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to count them. So what I have is, let's see, how many in the 50s? Lower 50s. 1, and that would be it. Upper 50s, I have 1, 2. Lower 60s, I have 1, 2. Upper 60s, I have 1. Lower 70s, 1, 2, 3. Upper 70s, I have 1, 2, 3. And for lower 80s, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to draw my histogram. This time we don't start at 0, so we're going to put 2 little slashes. That means we get to start wherever we want. So I'm going to start at 50. And since I'm going by 55 by 5s, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85 would be my last one. My highest frequency is 3. I should have labeled. Let's see. And 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go up to 3. First one is 1. Then I have 2 at 2. It's not a very pretty one. Then I have, the next one is 1. Then I have 3 at 3. And that right there would be my histogram. I'm going to describe the distribution. So I'm going to start off with my shape. The peaks are right over here. Notice it's more spread out on the left-hand side, so we're going to say skewed left. Outliers would be none, because if you're looking at it, there's no gaps. Then we have the center. Remember, with histograms, we're going to talk about our peak. It's not the mode, because it's not the number that occurs the most. It's the highest bin, or bar. So what we have is we have peaks at 70 to 79. Sorry, 70 to 74. 75 to 79, and we have 80 to 84. And for our spread, we're going to look at our range again. Our range is our maximum minus the minimum. We said that our maximum was 83. We said our minimum was 52. And that right there would give us 31.